Hello everyone, this is Alexandre from Gains. Today I am joined by Kyn from TomoChain. How are you doing, Kyn?
Hi, Alexander. Thank you very much. I'm doing really well. I think everyone's pretty happy with the current state of the market. And yet for us, we continue to build. So I can't be more excited for everything that's happening in our industry right now.
Can you please tell us about yourself, about the team maybe?
So I'm the Chief Business Development Officer at TomoChain. TomoChain itself, we're a team of roughly almost 60 people comprising our core development team, as well as we have an enterprise division as an extension of that. We launched into Mainnet at the end of 2018, December 2018. We did our ICO back in early 2018, back in March. So we've been in Mainnet now for well over 2 years, and it's been running quite smoothly. We're a proof of stake voting consensus, and we are EVM compatible. So basically any code that's operating on Ethereum or any other EVM compatible chains can also operate on TomoChain. 2000 TPS, 2-second block time. We have 150 masternodes, which operate and secure our consensus or operate our consensus and secure the entire network. The nice thing about these 150 masternodes is they're quite varied. We have a number of community-run masternodes, and we have a number of industry ones, like including Binance, KuCoin, HashQuark, CoinGecko, and it goes on basically, so we have a great stamp of credibility there. And the maximum number you can have is 150. The nice thing about that is over the past 2 years, about 95% of the time, we've always had our maximum 150 masternodes. There's always someone wanting to come in and operate one. So I think that's great credibility for what we built there. So if I break it down a little bit further over the last couple of years, we have built multiple protocols, layer 1 protocols on TomoChain. We have a couple dozen businesses with existing customer bases that are built right on top of TomoChain. We have government relationships, enterprise relationships that are building with us as well. We're a startup. We focus as a startup, and that also means bringing in revenue too, so that we can operate the businesses and have a long-term viable company in the blockchain space for the foreseeable future, and we're hoping decades to come.
The main thing I'm wondering is, on the technical side, you say, you have speed, you have decentralization, 150 masternodes, that's decent. And you have security, you have usability, that's all good, right? But there's lots of platforms that have very good technical stats, but they don't have many users or adoptions. And you say there's governments, there's enterprises using the platform. Could you expand on which governments are there, which enterprises, how are they using it, what's the volume they're transacting on TomoChain?
So basically, when we think about blockchain, one of the core tenets that we have was developing a blockchain that was not just scalable, but also could be thought of as invisible. When you're looking for mass adoption, the last thing you really want is for your grandmother to have to understand how to buy Bitcoin, for example. Like, where do you go to an exchange? How do you buy it? How do you convert that to another cryptocurrency? And then how do you access dApps? How do you pay gas fees? All of these areas are points of friction. And at the end of the day, when we think about other technologies that are out there, whether it's 5G, whether it's utilization of AI, everything is running in the background, and the end user doesn't have to think about it. And blockchain, we think of it as a similar technology. It's a technology that has its own core capabilities. So what we've done is really spent time in masking that blockchain friction. Sure, we have a crypto community who purchase and hold Tomo, and that's great. But what we've done is we've had it so that we can have enterprise and government agencies and commercial businesses come on board and say, let's use TomoChain and not worry about all of that. So our biggest piece of news, which came out a couple of months ago, is that we have signed an official agreement with the Vietnam government, specifically the Ministry of Education and Training, which oversees the entire education sphere of Vietnam. That's 22 plus million students that they have under their purview. And what we're going to be doing is securing every single diploma that is issued in Vietnam from high school and above on the TomoChain blockchain. That's the first thing. And so this is a mass adoption, mass rollout in Vietnam. Second thing we're doing is we're consolidating the entire education industry, in the sense that everyone from the universities, the institutions that are issuing diplomas, to the graduates who need to have access to their diplomas, to, say, employers who need also to have access to those candidates who are applying for positions, access to those diplomas. All of this is going to be put onto a central website, a portal of sorts that everyone's going to access. Institutions upload their diplomas and everyone else can get access to it. So we're consolidating that entire industry into a single web portal, and it's all going to be secured on the TomoChain blockchain. So we'll start with the 2021 school year. So it's going to be rolled out in about a month at this point. We're going to start actually utilizing this platform. And then most likely what will happen is they'll do a back catalog, bringing previous years and placing it on the TomoChain public blockchain. The other thing that this plays really well to is that the Prime Minister of Vietnam recently announced their focus on 5 key areas of technology focus, and one of those is blockchain too. So we're kind of ahead of the curve there. So one particular project, which we still can't, I've been talking about for a little while, but we can't really announce too much about, it's a mass market product that's being used by thousands of normal people in Japan. They're using TomoChain blockchain, but they don't even know it. So basically, the largest entertainment company in Japan has a bunch of these idols under their purview. And what they've done is they've issued these trading cards of sorts that have been basically sent out into the marketplace about 2 months ago. And so people, what they do is they buy these trading cards. And one of the cards is a digital card. So they download a mobile application, they scan it, and now they have a digital representation of that card. Within the application, they can buy and sell the card for virtual currency, like you would in a free-to-play game, right? Where you basically are, in this case, using yen to buy virtual currency, which can then be used to buy and sell these digital cards. What they don't know is that these digital cards are NFTs, and they don't know that the virtual currency are TomoChain blockchain tokens. And that's how it's operating. And we have done over about 400,000 NFT transactions over the last 2.5 months or so, and over 150,000 virtual currency transactions as well over that period of time. And that's what I mean by when we think about blockchain as a technology, not needing for it to be the core focus. Now, in the background, Tomo is being used to pay our masternode. There's no doubt about that. But we've built it in such a way that it just makes it easy for businesses to do this.
Awesome. These numbers are very impressive. What I'm curious about is all these transactions. How do they translate to the token price or demand and supply, right? Since obviously you have masternodes, there's a small APY, so that's like on the selling pressure. Could you tell us more about the token incentives, the economics?
Roughly, staking earns about 7 to 10% for most stakers, and for master operators, about double that. What we notice is most of our circulating supply, but over 3/4 of our circulating supply is already out there. I mean, of our total supply, it's already out there. We have about 25% left. So what we've noticed is that there hasn't been a significant sell pressure. We have a protocol called TomoZ, zero friction. What it basically does is it allows for any project to issue their own token, like an ERC20 token on Ethereum. The difference is that the gas fee is paid in the token itself. So if you issue a stable coin, then what happens is when you send that stable coin, you don't have to hold Tomo to pay a gas fee. You can just pay it in that stable coin itself. The way it works, in the background, the token issuer has to put a small deposit of Tomo into, call it like a small bank, basically. Every time that token is sent, a little bit of that Tomo is sent to pay the masternode network. Now, and the token issuer can specify what fee that they want to be paid in that token. So they can actually turn a profit if they want to, if that token holds value and they have enough of a user base. Then they're earning token fees themselves for every time someone sends a token while they're paying Tomo in the background. And we have so many issuers at this point of these TomoZ tokens. We have some hundreds of tokens that are actually issued and used every day. So as a result of that, all of these issuers do have to purchase Tomo in order to be able to utilize their token, right? Even if they're, again, masking it in the background. And because we have, at this point, well over 75,000 active users that are utilizing the network, it creates a natural cycle for people to be able to continue to purchase Tomo or hold Tomo, and there is less selling pressure because you have to keep having Tomo to fuel the economy there. And because we've been around for the last 2 years plus in Mainnet. Because of that, we're now reaching our first halvening, which is happening next month in February.
I'd be curious to learn more about the tokens that are on TomoChain. Is there a bridge to trade them on Ethereum? How does it work? What are the kind of companies that put their tokens on TomoChain?
We do have a bridge called TomoBridge, but what it does is it allows for any ERC20 token to be able to, without permission, wrap their token onto the TomoChain network. So what we've had a number of ecosystem projects that have wrapped their token. We have a DEX called TomoDEX. So we've had a number of projects coming there. So we have guys like Frontier, Serum, Decenter, and a series of others who have done that. Second thing is in terms of the businesses that are actually utilizing TomoChain. One of the earliest ones is a company called Coin98, which is a Vietnam-based company, and they have a mobile app wallet, basically. They've been expanding into a bunch of different blockchains, starting off with TomoChain, and they have a token called C98. They have direct access to the Vietnam investor group. So within about 2 months of launch, they had over 100,000 users utilizing their mobile wallet, their mobile app, and their token as well. So we were doing incredible numbers of transactions just with that. We have the first Mongolian exchange called AIS, which also we helped build their exchange, and they've issued their own exchange token on that as well. We have another company called Bacoor. Bacoor was the operator of the largest Ethereum wallet in Japan. They decided to migrate over to TomoChain last year. And so they've not only issued their own mobile wallet, they've issued an NFT marketplace as well. They brought games over as well. And they've also issued their own tokens. And these are just some of the projects that have basically issued their token that actually have user bases, consumers, and can actually scale, essentially, that are utilizing the TomoChain network.
You seem to have really a high number of partners that use TomoChain. I'm wondering, how do you convince them to use TomoChain compared to ETH, or even to just jump on the Polkadot hype like everyone is doing these days?
Because we've been around for a couple of years now in Mainnet, at the time, the current batch of blockchains were still in development at various stages. And Ethereum has had this gas issue since 2017, which is kind of sort of the starting point for when TomoChain and some of the other chains started to come into play, was to solve this gas fee issue. So number one, I think it's timing. We've been there for a couple of years, so we've had time to build up these businesses. They're not coming out just today. They've been there already, right? When we think about Ethereum, because of the fact that high gas fees, we have an actual team there to support, and we've been around for a couple of years, it's easier for projects to want to utilize our setup and our system. We're proven. And the fact is, when you have a team as large as we do have today, and to your legacy as well, that we're here to stay, right? So it makes more sense for a business to look for a scalable blockchain like us, rather than something that's brand new where there are a lot of questions there.
That's great. How do you use TomoChain compared to Ethereum? Can you use MetaMask? Is there some customization you need to do? And how's the UI looking from someone who's maybe used to Uniswap? Are they going to be lost? How does it work?
You can log in through My Ether wallet if you want to. MetaMask is also compatible. So basically anywhere where you can use Ethereum, typically you can do the same thing with TomoChain. The only difference is that you need to just select a different network. You just select the TomoChain network rather than being on the standard Ethereum network. I log in all the time to, say, our TomoDEX, our decentralized exchange, using MetaMask and my ledger. I log into it on my Ether wallet using my ledger as well. Ledger itself also has a TomoChain app if you want to ever use that. Otherwise, you can also log in using the Ethereum app as well. So we've tried to make it as simple as possible. We also have our own wallet called TomoWallet, which is something that our community absolutely loves. It's very, very simple to use. So what we've done is we've had it so that it's integrated into all of our products. It's integrated into our DEX. And we also allow for users to also store like ERC20 tokens in there. They can wrap it, so they can basically use our bridging solution, bring their ERC20 tokens over to TomoChain. Everything can be handled within the app itself. We also have a desktop wallet, which is wallet.tomochain.com, which is also very user-friendly. And Trust Wallet supports us. Frontier app supports us. Basically, in most cases, if you have a wallet, you probably have access to TomoChain in some way.
Cool. And what's the volume and the liquidity looking like on the DEX? Because I'm sure most of us would love to use another desk than Uniswap with lower fees, but it's kind of the chicken and the egg problem, right? If very few people are using it, then it's hard to move yourself.
You're right. You have to kind of build up that momentum and have a real reason to do it. For TomoDEX, we peaked around, I think, around $500,000 a day in total volume in order to incentivize liquidity. We partnered with a company called Atonio, and what they're going to allow for anybody to become a market maker. They essentially have a bot of sorts that they're building for TomoChain for use on TomoDEX. So it's going to allow for the ability for users to set it on automated mode, and they can basically buy and sell and trade the spread essentially. And so that hopefully will thicken up the order books as well. The last thing that we're also doing is we have an AMM called LuaSwap. So similar to SushiSwap or Uniswap, as you had mentioned earlier. It's a multi-chain swap. So right now it's sitting on Ethereum. We're going to be launching a new version that's going to be operating in parallel on TomoChain at the end of this month. Now, what that's going to allow is for native TomoChain-based tokens to be able to utilize it. It's also going to allow for wrap tokens coming from Ethereum to also be able to utilize it within the TomoChain network. Moving forward, the thought process is that our DEX would also be able to, our order book-based DEX would also be able to tap in to the liquidity sitting on LuaSwap. So that way what happens is we, again, continue to build up more liquidity, hopefully build up more users and more volume on the DEX. So this is kind of our plan moving forward.
Okay, great. And do you have other plans for the future? What's your roadmap looking like?
A lot, a lot. We are going to be expanding it even further. We're looking to do allow for margin trading later in the year. When we were building TomoChain, we knew we were going to build 3 layer 1 protocols. Layer 1 meaning that it doesn't require gas fees. It doesn't have a sense of slowness because our masternodes are actually operating as layer 1 protocols. The first one, as I mentioned, was TomoZ, where you can issue a token and pay the gas fee in the token itself. Second thing is TomoX, which allows for the creation of these permissionless dexes like TomoDEX. No gas fees on the DEX at all. It makes it so you could log into MetaMask. It's a very simple user experience. And the third one is called TomoP, which stands for privacy. It's our privacy suite. So it allows for 4-second private sends of Tomo and eventually of other tokens within our network. It will be allowing for integration into DApp. So you could have truly, say, private staking. You could have a payment business that could launch, issue their own private token, which could be used by their consumer base, their constituents. And it would have regulatory compliance, so that this company could basically allow for auditors to look into what's happening within the network if they need to. But from the outside, people would know who's doing what, right? Which is essentially one of the problems with using public blockchain technology, is that everything's so transparent. So this would allow for these businesses to operate at the speed of our blockchain, doing these private transactions. So that's the final one, TomoP. So with this latest mainnet upgrade that we did this past week, it includes all the code for TomoP. And we're basically just waiting for a period of time to actually activate it so people can actually utilize it. And that will be the completion of our trifecta of layer 1 protocols. And that's coming over the next couple of months as well.
Well, speaking about your team, you did mention you're 60 people. That's quite a lot of people to pay. So how much did you raise? How much do you have left from that? And how much are you making per month? Is it sustainable at the moment?
We raised $8.5 million during our ICO back in early 2018. And what we did was, at the time, I think it was a very smart idea, is our team decided to tether most of that. I think at the time, Ethereum was sitting around $1,000 or so. And so we tethered pretty much everything in that treasury. And that is kind of what allowed us to not go bankrupt, I think, during the entire bear market. So that allowed us to kind of continue through the bear market for the 2-3 years. So we have a services business and enterprise business, right? We built exchanges, wallets, we work on tokenomics. And as a result of that, that income which has been generated has allowed us to continue to operate as a business. Right now, we have at least another 2 years of runway, even if we don't generate any revenue. today. And that's kind of been the focus. We're very cost conscious of what we do. And that is why, we did not overspend during that bear market cycle. We were very cautious with, say, market spending and marketing, essentially, right? We were very cautious with where we listed, how much we paid for anything that we did on that front, including our employee count, right? We've always been very, even though 60 is a lot overall, but getting to that point, we were very cautious with who we added into the team. If certain team members didn't work, then we said, okay, fine, let's slim down a little bit here, slim down a little bit there. This is kind of how we survived, and this is how we do operate, which is why even in a bull cycle, we have the same mentality. So I think the other thing that we did, if I was just going to add one more thing, is that 3 months ago, we also acquired the Lition blockchain. And so Lition is a sidechain solution on the Ethereum network. And the entire focus really has been on enterprise. So I've been talking a lot about enterprise and how we have an enterprises division. And we decided to acquire Lition back in October. And we've been working with the Lition team for over a year now as partners. We're our own blockchain, TomoChain. When we talk to our enterprise clients, what often happens is they tend to be more favorable towards private chains, or if they're looking at public chains, often they'll first think about Ethereum because it's the biggest one out there, right? And then they'll look at other chains. And so what we've done is we've offered our clients a number of different options over the last couple of years. And in this case, what we noticed is that when there is interest in using, say, the Ethereum network, one thing we thought was, okay, well, we know that enterprise businesses typically want something which is private and where they can control the data. Now, if they're not interested in hosting their own private solution, they want to use the security of a public blockchain. How can we help them with that? Lition developed a solution. Number one, it's fast. Number two, it's private, so you can have private transactions. Number three, they actually have deletable data. So you can actually delete data. That means there's a lot of control there. And so we realized that branding, the European focus, as well as the technology itself and access to the Ethereum network were actually quite important in our enterprises business. And so since then, we acquired them. We recently have gone through a transition phase where we've taken in all the technology, we've done our due diligence on it, and we're going to be signing our first contract soon with an enterprise business that's going to be operating on the Lition blockchain pretty soon. And that's also part of the revenue driving side of the business and kind of how we look at the space. We know enterprise is a slow moving space, but it's going to be picking up, and we've been building the infrastructure for that.
I'm curious, how do you allow for data to be deleted on the blockchain? Because usually it's a permanent ledger, so it goes against the basic concept.
You're right. On a public blockchain, you can't have deletable data. It makes no sense, right? We need to make sure everything is there. The Lition sidechain, that's the advantage of a sidechain is it can have its own consensus mechanism, it can have its own operations. So Lition as a sidechain solution, again, it can be treated like a private chain. Think of it as a private chain, right? In a private chain scenario, you can actually manipulate data if you want to. You'll have a record that it existed, but you can then actually go back and delete. There's a particular information in the metadata which can be adjusted. In this case, it allows for that, which is why you're not going to end up seeing an everyday user utilizing it as you would, say, in Ethereum network, on the Ethereum network or TomoChain blockchain, but for specific use cases like transacting energy, or right now we're positioning it to look at central bank digital currencies, large financial banking institutions. This is kind of where they play. They want to have full control. They want to be able to think of blockchain in the same capacity where they can actually delete the data or alter the transactional data. That's how they want to operate, at least at the moment, on blockchain. So it gives them the ability to do that. But at the end of the day, what happens is all the transactional data, which happens on the sidechain itself, once it's completed, then it gets deposited onto the main network. So when we think about deletable data on a sidechain solution, it makes sense. You can't do it on a public blockchain ledger. It just goes against, as you said, it goes against the whole purpose of a public blockchain. On a sidechain, though, the nice thing about sidechains is you can turn them they can operate however you want them to. They can be treated like purely private chains where you have complete access, they're permissioned, you can delete data, you can do whatever you really want to on a sidechain. And so when it comes to being GDPR compliant, if you wanted to operate in places like Germany, European Union, in a regulatory capacity, you need to have a side chain or a solution in some way where you can delete customer data or user data. That's important. And this is also something when we think about central bank digital currencies, when we think about other enterprise use cases, it's important to be able to have, for them at least, to have more control, these authorities to have more control.
Cool, interesting. If I'm a developer and I want to build on TomoChain, how do I do it?
Because TomoChain is EVM compatible, we use the same tool sets as developers on Ethereum. So it's Solidity, essentially, right? So, and that, which is why we actually have tutorials set up for those who are developers on Ethereum or Tron, for example. We have these tutorials set up where you can just basically port your code over in 30 minutes, or if you're on Tron, a few hours. You can have everything kind of moved over to TomoChain. It doesn't take long to do. The main thing, of course, is that if you're moving your code over, you just have to learn a little bit more about the nuances of the blockchain itself. But other than that, it's very simple for any existing EVM developer coding in Solidity.
How do you see competition? Are you just trying to go to the governments, the enterprises, and make them sign contracts to use TomoChain before others?
Typically, in any industry, any nascent industry that is coming up, it usually isn't so matter of fact. Really, it comes down to relationships to start off with, existing relationships, and how those can lead into better business opportunities. So, our executive team, we're all from different backgrounds, and we've been operating in different industries before blockchain. And so, the average executive at our company is well over 35 years old at this point. What has allowed you to do is have a career in other areas, build up that network, and then be able to utilize that network to drive forward your current vision. So that's really how doors open across the board in our space. It's just not really talked about. What we're doing is we're really focusing our attention in the areas where doors have opened. So that is Vietnam, Japan, and parts of Southeast Asia as well, because that's where our network is, and that's where we've seen traction. Once we have proven use cases, once you have that in place, it's then easier to say, okay, you have a working system, you have a working relationship with the government. Now, let's take that somewhere else, right? Let's showcase what we've done, because we have something proven. Until you have something proven, it's all on paper, right? And someone has to trust you in order to be able to do it. And they also have to trust that it makes sense for them. And right now, it's hard in this space, in this industry, for any standard business, any standard enterprise to see the value of blockchain immediately, because they have to be educated. So this is kind of the path that we're taking.
I was curious, do you have any cool anecdote or story that you would share, since you've been in crypto for a while and people love stories?
So back in 2016, I was trading on Bitfinex. I was doing a very large trade at the time. So I had sent a significant portion of my Bitcoin portfolio to Bitfinex. And then I got busy doing something else. I forgot to do my trade or whatever it was. 2 hours later, all of a sudden, I can no longer had access to my Bitcoin. And I was like, what the hell happened here? What had happened was Bitfinex had been hacked. That was within 2 hours of me sending my tokens there, it had been hacked. And what had happened was, over the course of the next few weeks, there was, the solution essentially was that everyone was going to take a haircut. A third of their Bitcoin was going to be basically thrown out, essentially, right? You just have to accept it. And instead, they issued a version of Tether at the time, basically. The idea is that for every dollar you lost, you get a version of these Bitfinex tokens, which is equivalent to $1. And the moment that those hit the market, they sold off. So every dollar was now worth about, I think it was like 30 cents, right? So on top of that, you ended up losing all of that. That was like a nightmare scenario for me at the time. It was like the first time I really realized what kind of a wild, wild west territory that we were operating in. There were no real repercussions. It was just the way it was, right? So at that time, that's when I said, I need to find a cold wallet solution. And I need to basically make sure that any time that I trade, I do my trade and I basically withdraw all my funds from an exchange. Even today, we've seen plenty of hacks, whether it's even rug pulls, we're seeing attack vectors on some of our favorite DeFi protocols. And the most important thing is to realize that there is so much risk in this space, and never put everything in one place. always make sure you're storing things in your cold wallet and that you always have access to it. It was a hard lesson, but my God, man, it's something that has stuck with me and something that I hope that anyone else that's listening or thinking about crypto, you got to make sure you own your own keys and be careful with when you trade.
Would you have any books to recommend?
One of the books that I look at is Recursal, which is the singularity, which is focusing on the idea of the merging of digital with biological and what the future might look like when we start to essentially add more technology to our lives, whether that is basically an artificial intelligence helping us, guiding us throughout the day, right? Scheduling, you have a scheduled appointment tomorrow at this particular time. Oh, you have an Amazon package coming in on Friday. Oh, you're out of milk. Let's order that for you, for next Monday, right? As things become more automated, and as we start to find solutions to our biological problems, right? Genetics, aging, what will happen down the road. It's an interesting thought experiment. Another one, which is maybe a little lighter, Little Book of Economics it's a fun little book. It's so short, and all it talks about, it's the basics of understanding how our world economic structure works. How does money work? How is it created? How do taxes impact an economy? And it's like, if you want to get a mini MBA of sorts, this is the book to read. It gives you you can finish it in about 10 hours. And it's super simple.
It was a lovely time. I learned a lot about TomoChain actually. Is there anything else you'd like to say to conclude this interview?
In a market like we have today, if someone's new to crypto and they're just looking to generate some returns for themselves, I would just say don't overtrade. Just relax, chill, sit back, and enjoy the year. We get some bull markets and we get some really bad bear markets. So for the time being, this is a year. If you're really interested in space, but you're being too active, don't. Take a chill, sit back, relax. If you're interested in participating in the blockchain space, there are a lot of opportunities. And I think the main thing is just reading, researching. It's easy to network using Telegram, Twitter, and there are a lot of opportunities opening up in the space. So it's just a matter of putting the time and effort into it. Let the portfolio rest, let it do its thing, and just read and research. There are going to be so many cool things you can do in this space during this particular bull run.
Thank you, Kyn, for coming in. Thank you for your time. For everyone watching, drop a like if you liked the video, write a comment, tell us what you thought about it, and share it around. Alright, thank you everyone, and see
Thanks,
you
Alex.
for the next one. Bye.
See you guys.